any better. Imagine you're 17 years old. You've just finished playing basketball and had a hard, long day at school. As you begin to pack your bag for basketball practice, you think about what's going on at home. After all, your mom has just finished cooking your favorite meal. So you quickly finish packing, put on your hooded sweatshirt, and prepare to walk home. As you begin to walk home from the neighborhood, you notice that there's someone following you, and as a result, you become fearful, and the next thing you know, you are shocked and cold blood. No warning, no explanation, no justice. The Trayvon Martin story has hit a huge nerve in America. According to Bonnie Goldstein of the Washington Post, hoodies like the one he was wearing and Skittles the candy found in his pocket have become emblems of the last terrible moment when the young man was chased and killed. In other words, what he wore and what he was carrying have become symbols of racial prejudice that still exist in this country today. I can relate to the family of Trayvon Martin because I have undergone something similar to what they're going through. Yesterday, April 20th, was the 8th anniversary of my twin brother's murder. Jeremy Phillips was gunned down in Northeast Denver. The pain still haunts my family today. The question that's going through my mind is, how much value do we place on an individual human being's life? Furthermore, how does race play a role in deciding whose life has more value? In the United States, we have an inherent problem with racial stratification and self-segregation. As you can see, this prohibits the creation of a truly cohesive and shared American identity, and shows America not to be the great melting pot that we self-style ourselves as, or like a salad bowl like other westernized nations, but as a microwavable meal with the community somewhat separated like the meat and vegetables. In this speech, we are going to touch on the history of racial self-segregation and discrimination. Then we will address current barriers to unity through process and practices. Finally, we will help bring awareness to and help fight these corrosive stereotypes which compromise our national polity. This will help to create a much more racially conscious society and help to encourage national unity. The entire public is engaged in a continual discussion on race, and it's important that we make significant changes. We need to honestly discuss racism and stereotypes and how they impact the lives of minority Americans today if we have any hope of encouraging national unity. First, let us begin to examine the history of racial segregation and discrimination. Plessy versus Ferguson, which was a case put before the Supreme Court, established a clear precedent that allowed railroad companies to carry whites and minorities. However, they were required to ride in separate carriages. This same law carried over to schools, parks, and restaurants for more to come. You may ask yourself, what is the relevance of this legislation today? Well, the racist climate felt by the adherents of this law is still felt and observed in many communities in America today, even though there is no law saying that someone of one race cannot live in the same area as someone of a different race, or even socialize with them. While racism has started and continued due to the political interest or economic interest of others, we need to end racism to build a cohesive nation. By keeping us separate from Black America, those who use racism as an ends of means have truly helped keeping America from being one nation indivisible. Now that we have looked at how and why racism exists today, let's look at how stereotypes are permeated throughout society. In order to do this, we need to look at how stereotypes are ingrained and what the mechanism from stereotypes and where they come from. Why in the world do we have stereotypes if they're so destructive and enable such negative mentalities such as racism? To give you an example of how stereotypes are self-ingrained, let's think about an electric stove. You walk up to an electric stove, and normally you don't touch the electric stove because there's a stereotype ingrained in your mind that it would be painful to touch the stove. This is a natural human instinct, and the majority of us know that even when the stove is turned off, to touch the stove would be painful to do so. Now that we've given you an example of how and why stereotypes are reinforced, let us look at how the media continues some of our racial prejudices today. Byron Hurt, in his hip-hop documentary Between Beats and Rhymes, gives us an example of how hip-hop music went from the 1960s to Black empowerment and Fight the Power to present-day hip-hop music. Songs like Bitch Better Have My Money, which objectifies women in derogatory terms. This shift happened because of a change in values. It's a generational differences. In the 1960s, the different things that they faced, from segregation to racism to present day, the media and the mass commercialization of rap music has helped to alter the identity of the commercialization of rap music. After examining how stereotypes are communicated, let's think about some present and contemporary stereotypes that exist that you and I tell each other each and every day. All Black men are good at playing basketball. All bald white men are skinheads. All Asians get straight A's, and all Latinas can salsa merengue. Even though that these stereotypes have somewhat pervasive mentalities, they are told each and every day by people who should know better. We have to change the way that we stereotype and label people if we have any hope for our children growing up into a racist but free society. What are the benefits to a society that's free of harm and stereotyping? What are the benefits of watching your children grow up where race doesn't matter today? These are questions that we can ask when we watch our children grow up. It's up to each and every one of you to teach your children that stereotypes are not okay and not acceptable. Now imagine if Trayvon Martin was your brother, your son, your nephew, your cousin. How much would that impact your thoughts and lives? How would that change your views today? Now imagine if Trayvon Martin was white, Caucasian, Latino American. Would the media have the same impact or views on how the story is told? Would that change the outcome or the events? Most likely not. We've talked about the history of racial segregation and discrimination. Then we examine stereotypes today that are pervasive in society. We also analyze the negative effects that a media has with mass commercialization of rap music. In closing, I leave you with one of the greatest poems that celebrates multiculturalism, entitled Plain English, and it's written by Nellie Wong. I ask you guys to celebrate the culture of this poem because it celebrates all ethnicities, not just one. Plain English is not the flatlands, not donuts with holes intact. When we speak plainly in poetry, is it to say that we deflower the English language? Its richness, its golden light. When an Asian American speaks, when an African American speaks, when a Latin American speaks, and when a Native American speaks, he sings, she sings the languages of cultures, of festivals and bells and rhythms and dialects of ancestors long buried, but alive. Why a poem? Why not an essay? But you see, we write poems in our essays and essays in our poems. We do not confuse the form from the content, we fuse them. We see threads of cord and silk intertwined. We make love in the heart of sense, in the abdomen of pain and struggle, in the eyes see clarity, and the dancing and roaring of lions. If you say that I am being ethnic, if you say that I am being a reductionist, if you say that I am being limited, I say no. I resist what white America has taught me about beauty, because beauty is a mountain in our eyes, and because beauty is a glow of our yellow, black, and brown skins. And if we dance like you've never seen, we say, we are. We are. If we see other colors other than red, white, and blue, don't accuse us of being unpatriotic. Don't say that we do not belong, for our generations prove you wrong. For our history in slavery, incarceration, exclusion, we sing in plain English not to blend in a melting pot, but to simply see the dignity and elegance of our people who seek to rise and not to be silenced by a gun or by censorship.